second season with South Africa being a net importer of maize, because also in the previous season we were net importers, importing in total around about 1.96 million tons. And with this year's total imports, which are estimated to be roughly around about 3 million tons, they will cost South Africa roughly between 11 and 12 billion rands. So in that perspective, we were in a little bit of a trouble. But like you rightly said in your introduction, looking forward, things are pretty much giving us a little bit of a positive picture.
There were no wheat imports, you're saying, in the first week of the year, but you're saying we're still going to import about 3 million tons this year.
Yeah, I mean, remember our wheat needs a year is roughly around about 3.4 million tons. And this year, of course, we saw South Africa's wheat harvest a little bit of increasing by 30% from the previous season, reaching levels of around about 1.8 million tons. But then again, to really make sure that we will reach our requirement, we'll need to bring in at least around about 1.5 million tons of wheat. So far, there hasn't been imports because we've been harvesting. We have that sufficient supplies. But also, there are some lingering concerns around the wheat import tariff, because you remember last year that there was going to be a review of the current system that is actually in place at the moment, but so far there hasn't been any announcement, and I think that causes a little bit of uncertainty in the market, with traders sitting on the side a little bit, which is why you see that import activity a bit quiet on the wheat market.
All right, what impact will the rains make? We are hearing that there could be quite substantial rain in the next 8 days or so.
Yeah, I mean, look, right now, as you said in your introduction, the crop is looking well. But I think that with the rainfall, if everything else goes as the forecast suggests, the estimates are pointing on to a crop that will vary between 11.7 million tons and around about 13 million tons. So if we attain any crop in that range, we could be, of course, in a net exporting side, because South Africa needs on an annual basis around about 10.5 million tons. But I think that if we get anything within that range, we'll be well set for the next season. But I must emphasize, though, that to reach that, you need to consistently get some rainfall, like you said in your introduction, at least up until February. But the forecast, as we're looking at them now, is looking on pretty much positive.
A lot of people are talking about the end of the drought. Are you willing to say when you think it could break? Could that be February if we see those rains?
I could say that, you know, for most of the areas, it's already, I could say that it's the end. Because remember, drought on its own, by definition, is a persistent dry spell for some period of time. But now we've been getting some fairly good rainfall. I mean, eastern side of South Africa, central areas since last year. So I could say that we are off the hook now as per drought is concerned. It's only the western side of Northwest where one is still a little bit uncertainty. But I think that at least the storm is behind us.
Okay, so very good news. And what does this mean for consumers? Maize prices, the imports, the tariffs you were talking about, all of that led to higher prices. Is that easing?
No, I mean, look, for consumer, if you take all of this information into consideration, you say what's the outlook is looking like. At the moment, you know, food inflation is at levels around about 11.6% on a year-on-year basis. But I think that for at least the first quarter of this year, and to some extent the second quarter, we could remain with the higher food inflation in South Africa. If you see any decrease, it will mainly be more of a statistical base effect. But I think that real benefits on our pocket will start to be apparent roughly around about the third quarter of this year. That, of course, will be because of the lag effect that is in there, because even if crop gets to be good, it only gets harvested around about April, and going through the chain of processing, you know, consumers will only feel the benefits later on in the year.
And finally, very quickly, what about meat? There was slaughtering, lower meat prices, but that was expected to go up.
I think that meat remains a key risk on the upward side of inflation, because as slaughtering starts to decrease, as the guys are rebuilding up their stocks, meat is going to continue to be one of the key upward risks within the food inflation basket. So everything else might go down, but meat remains in there on the upward risk side.
All right, behind me you can see an array of American flags and the US President-elect Donald Trump about to take to the podium. We'll take you live as he starts